Good day. So this will be another opportunity of exploration of learning. So here, I will help you to master the different models of communication. It will lead you to understand or having the understanding how communication works among people to foster mutual understanding and good relationships. Our objectives differentiate the various models of communication, explain the process of communication through the elements involved, and recognize the importance of models in understanding the communication process as applied in everyday life. So the question is, why do you need to know the communication models? Communication is a process where a sender sends a message to receiver through the various channels, and with the same or with the other channel, sender gets the feedback from the receiver. From the previous lesson, we learned about the elements of communication, and these elements are important ingredient in the model of communication. So we have here the model, representation of real world phenomenon in more abstract terms which can be applied in different terms. We use models to simplify the concepts of communication process in a graphical form. So we need to say there are the basic theories concerning the elements of communication and how they operate and interact. We have here the three models of communication. First of which is the linear communication. So from the term itself, linear, it means one-way communication, focusing on the transmission of message to a receiver who never responds or has no way of responding to the information conveyed. Let's say, for instance, a competition organizer is presenting the contest mechanics. The message is final and cannot be contested at all. So the sender sends the message. Receiver receives only, and there's no feedback at all. Noise is the concept. The noise, for instance, the choice of channel selected may affect the way a receiver interprets a message. The number of interruptions may occur, they are called as noise. It may be called psychological noise. It could be the psychological state of the receiver that will affect the interpretation of the message, including stress, anxiety, anger, and others. So it involves persuasion, not mutual understanding. Frost, it is good at audience persuasion. So, for example, the president himself delivering the State of the Nation address. Right? The president is what? Trying to persuade or to convince the audience using the channel, which is television. There are intentional results used in for the cons. Communication is not continuous, no feedback, no interactive. That's why it's difficult to identify if communication was effective. Other examples, we have sending emails, receiving a text message, listening to a radio, and watching television. Shadow Weaver model of communication is under linear communication. So here, since this is an example of linear type of communication, it is also considered as the matter of all communication model. It has one-way process starting from the source, which is the producer of the message, passing through the channel, that is signals adapted for transmission, which may at times be interrupted by the noise, which is the barrier itself. So to a receiver, decoder of the message from the signal, so the process stops after the message has arrived at its destination. So as you can see on the presentation, there are five elements that comprise the Shannon-Weaver model of communication. We have the source, the transmitter, the channel, receiver, and of course, the destination. Interactive. The term itself, interact, it is a two-way communication process. So, used for media like internet, there is feedback, interactive, but not simultaneous. So, as I said, interactive approach is a two-way communication process where response is given after a message is sent. The recipient of the message or the recipient of the action intentionally or unintentionally gives a feedback associated with the information received. On the conversation of Griselda and her mother. Griselda, Nanay, I can smell the aroma of your best delicacy, adobo. Aling Terry, yeah, I know. It is the favorite of the family, so adobo is what I prepared today. Griselda, I can't wait to taste it. So here, Aling Terry's response to Griselda's statement proves that she decodes the intended meaning of the idea passed on to her. That is what we call the feedback. So see, feedback makes a difference. If the mother did not respond to the statement of the daughter, the latter would not know whether her mother understood what she said. So the exchange of idea or information verifies that both parties understand the message. The pros, there is a feedback even in mass communication, new communication channels, and the cons, feedback is delayed, the sender and the receiver might not know who that person is. Take a look at the SCHRAMM model. So here, the figure identifies the six elements of communication, which are the sender, the message sent, the receiver and the feedback provided by the receiver, and sent back as the response to the sender, and the process of encoding and decoding. Remember, information may become useless if it's not conveyed properly to others. Thus, the processes of encoding and decoding are the key components of this model. Encoding, based on what we have studied during the previous lesson, it is when idea or information translated into words and expressed to others. And decoding is when idea or information is understood and interpreted by the receiver. Hence, the receiver must be able to send feedback to the sender in order to complete the process. Otherwise, the communication transaction fails. So, SRAM model, which is a two-way communication model, revolves around this principle. The last one is this transactional model. The key features, sender and receiver both are communicators. They are equal. Communication is simultaneous. Nonverbal gestures is part of the feedback. Therefore, communication is dynamic. It has complex in nature. It takes place among individuals at any given time with any given subject. However, there are tendencies that barriers would interfere which may create a sudden impact and change in the processing of information. In a classroom setting, for example, you are being grouped into five or six members for an activity. Your task is to give an opinion or reaction to the closure of the biggest television network in the Philippines. So each of you expresses your thoughts regarding the matter. While having the activity, you also heard the junior high school having their dance practice for the upcoming event. That noise did not interrupt your discussion as you gave your views. So this is the situation or a best example of transactional approach. Look here on the transactional model. This transactional model shows a circular process of interaction between the person involved in the communication. with each one actively participating and sharing ideas with one another. They are the communicators actively exchanging information and reaction. So feedback is given freely and deliberately to one another. Yes, we're done discussing the three models of communication. Let's do the recap. The first one, we have there the linear model. Then the second one, we have here the interactive. And the last one is the transactional model. So happy learning class.